Okay, everyone. In this video, we are going to continue the discussion on the etiological factors. We are going to talk about some manifestations that's due to abnormal emotional changes, especially for extreme emotional changes. This session, the differentiation according to the emotional injuries, we can just have a general idea that the emotion can affect our health, but this manifestation sometimes is very hard to distinguish with the others. In other words, these manifestations sometimes won't happen alone, so it will be combination of with the other manifestations or the other etiological factors. So you can just have a general idea and learn why the emotional can injure the human health, or from these manifestations, why we put them into different categories such as excessive joy, excessive anger, excessive or overthinking. So why these different manifestations belongs to different emotion. The reason is from the relationship between the emotion and the organs, according to the five elements. So the joy is related to the heart. So if excessive joy, it will affect the heart directly. So these are also the internal evils. The first one, excessive joy, because joy related to the heart. So excessive joy will affect the heart problem, especially in the heart mind. So it will manifest with the mental problem, such as mental distraction, persistent laughing. So they laugh for nothing. So that kinds of manifestation mostly related to the mental disorder. At the beginning of our study in February, we have talked about one story of Mr. Fan who attended the state officer's exam. So after years study, he eventually, after failing for thousands of times, he eventually passed the exam, and then all of a sudden he's very happy, excessive joy. And though I said in the story, he become mad, persistent laughing. That's the mental disorder. That's the emotional injuries going to affect our human health from happiness. True happy going to affect the heart mind. So similarly, if you understand different emotions can affect different organs. So now you can think about which emotion relates to which organs. Excessive anger. The anger is related to the liver. So excessive anger will result in liver problem. The patient can present with yellow coating, irritation, and very bad temper. So can be restless, irritation, distending pain in the ribs area that's due to the qi stagnation, especially the liver qi stagnation, distension and pains of the head and eyes. Distension is the manifestation of qi stagnation. So that's the anger may the the person with excess anger may present with these manifestations. The stagnation of the liver qi also can cause the internal heat. patient can present with red complication or headache. The patient also may experience diarrhea. The reason for the diarrhea is the liver and the spleen, the relationship between the wood and the earth. So that's also from the five elements. This kinds of stagnation, this kinds of liver stagnation, the patient also can feel better after signing. So the patient will prefer, you can hear during the consultation, when you talk to the patient, you can feel or you can hear a lot of signing, such as the patient will present as so this kinds of signing is also a sign of liver qi stagnation. Excessive depression. Depression is linked to the lung. So excessive depression, depressed mood, chest tightness. Excessive grief is also related to the lung. As you can see here, the depression and the grief, both of them are related to the lung. The reason is because these two are kind of similar and they are related. They are both the emotions of the lung. Excessive grief is kind of sadness. So the depression, the patient feel low, the emotion is not high. They feel depressed, and grief is more like a sadness, such as if such as from the something bad happened to them, such as loss of families or the the young kids, the young couples, they broke up. So these are sadness, considered as grief, going to affect the lung. Overthinking. Overthinking can be the actions of thinking too much, excessive thinking, or the other is the thinking kind of mixing, so missing someone that's related to the spleen. So the patient can present as reluctance to talk and poor appetite. The reason for these symptoms is because the overthinking can affect the spleen function. Excessive fear. Fear is the emotion of the kidney. So from the fear, you can see the manifestations are linked to the kidney and bladder. So this manifestation sometimes is more or sometimes easier to see in animals, such as the dogs. If the dogs feel fear after they leave, you can see they pee on the floor. That's from the fear, and then the bladder lost the control. So that can present as the bladder problem, the urine problem, the spermatoria, impotence. So these are all the exomes problem related to the kidney and the bladder. Excessive fright. Fright is the emotion of the gallbladder. So this will more related to the gallbladder. The gallbladder, the patient may feel palpitation, irritates, dream disturb, sleep, insomnia. So these are the common manifestations. So when you see a patient present with these manifestations, you can think about the emotions. Does the patient suffer from some kind of family issues, some emotional issues that can help you to diagnose? The excessive exertion. The excessive exertion can refer to can affect the qi and blood, can refers to mentally exertion or physically, such as from sexual life. So it can be includes the mental exhaustion, fatigue, poor appetite. These are the different symptoms. Palpitation. Why the patient will have palpitation? In which session we have mentioned if the patient causes the excessive exertion, you have the palpitation. That's from the relationship between the organs. That's the relationship between the heart and the kidney. You can go back to there to see how to explain the palpitation. The patient can have a poor memories, insomnia. That's also the heart problem. During disturbed sleeping, that's also the heart. Infertilities, spermatoria, scanty menstruation. So these are related to the kidney. So that's the mostly what they affect. So it can be from the mentally exertion, someone they work mentally or they work too much. It also can be from the sexual life. The physical inactivities, this means someone they don't work, especially they don't work physically. So they rest all day long. This will cause mental fatigue, obesity. So someone they eat a lot, they don't move. Weakness of limbs because they don't exercise. So these are some of the symptoms for someone that don't exercise or they don't work. Food retention. Food retention mainly will affect the digestive system, which especially the spleen and stomach. So the patient will have poor appetite, the abdominal fullness. From the coating, a thick greasy coating, and slippery pulse. Why the patient will have a thick greasy coating? That's the explanation when we study the coating. The food retention is a kind of fertilizer because once the food the food once there's food retention, it will cause the extra waste in the body. That's the fertilizer. That's why the grasses on your tongue grows very well, become a thick greasy coating. So that's from the food retention. The patient will present with poor appetite, abdominal fullness, and greasy and thick coating. Drug. This drug is not refers to the addictive drugs only. It can be any kind of medicine. So that actually means the misuse or wrong dosage of the medicine. So that's the can cause kinds of poisoning symptoms: dizziness, palpitation, nausea, and diarrhea. So these are some of the common manifestations of medicine or of the wrong medicine or the side effects of the medicine. The parasites also can cause internal problems, especially for intestinal problems. So the patient will have such as stomach ache or itching, sometimes itching, especially itching at night in the anus area. And the cause for this, how we explain, is from the qi stagnation and also the consumption of nutrition, which is in or in other words, the blood. Animal bites, trauma, and fall injury. These two, the animal bites, also a kind of pathological etiology factors, but we're not going to focus on here. The reason is because acupuncture, we don't really use acupuncture for these problems. Trauma and fall injury. These two are quite similar. Actually, the fall injury is under the category of trauma, but why we put them as two categories? The reason is from Chinese medicine, the fall injury and trauma is different in different sessions because departments will specifically specialize in fall injury, especially for problems related to the bones. The trauma is a border categories. So these are some of the common etiological factors. For this session, you can just go through and have a general idea that you can think about these problems. There's a lady, 28 years old, presented with itching skin for 2 days, accompanied with small and big papules, a light red tongue and moderate pulse. She has a fish allergy and has been diagnosed with allergic urticaria. So what's the diagnosis of this lady? How do we analyze? So for this case, you can pick up some very typical symptoms: itching skin, itchy, it's very typical. Papules, especially for these two. These two refers to kinds of skin disorder and for 2 days. So itching and the skin is the wind. Why external? So it's the interior wind pattern or syndrome. Short term, short course. And on top of the skin, so it is in a superficial level. The skin disorder, short term. So that's how to diagnose the pattern. The wind is young. Because of the short term and mild cases, that's why there's no obvious changes in the tongue. There's another case, 58 years old lady, headache for 3 years. The patient walked in the cold rain, so she was in the rain 3 days ago, and then headache. So that's the cause, accompanied with heavy cold feeling in the limbs, with white greasy coating, deep cell pulse. So from these manifestations, firstly, the patient has a history of the cold environment. The patient also feel cold in the limbs, presents with white coating, so and slow pulse. So these symptoms ring any bells? That's the cold condition. External cold. And then dampness. Where do you see the dampness? That's from the greasy coating. So the greasy coating is a kind of dampness. So that's how we diagnose a, a syndrome or a pattern from the manifestations. You're going to pick up from a group of symptoms, a group of manifestations. You're going to pick up the very typical symptoms, very typical manifestations that's specifically for one symptom, for one pattern, such as here, the cold feeling in the limbs, that's cold. White color also cold. Slow pulse also cold. And for dampness, greasy coating, greasy tongue, heaviness, the heavy feeling in the limbs. Be careful here, heavy and cold feeling in the limbs. It will describe two kinds of manifestations, the heaviness and the cold. And the heaviness is related to the dampness. The cold is related to the cold. So that's why external cold dampness. And why is external? The reason is external is opposite to the internal. The coldness is from the external. The reason is because the cause of this problem, of this headache, is from the rain, walking in the rain. That's the cold environment. So that's how to analyze the clinical manifestations. For the treatments, when we talk about the therapeutics, we're going to focus on here. We're going to relieve or alleviate the cold and dampness, then the headache can be healed. That's also why for the same headache, we need to diagnose with the patterns specifically for one patient. Different patients may have different symptoms, and then the manifestation also may be different. The treatments also will be different. Thank you for your attention.